My name is Christopher Groß. I'm working with GIZ, leading the Get Transformed program. We are housed just next door, so it feels quite like a home session for us. So thank you very much for the invitation, and to IRENA for co-hosting this very important session. This session, as you can see, there is no panel, so it's about roundtable discussion. So I invite you all to vividly participate. We have some sort of prescripted interventions, but I would like to invite you as well to contribute with questions, comments, observations, so that we have a lively discussion. Yeah, so this topic I think is both practical and very important, if not the most important, and it's basically about how countries can adopt and sustain modeling efforts, modeling tools. And I think we all know the challenges quite well. So just when there is a team that really builds strong modeling capacity, key people move on, funding cycles and the tools that took years to build need another push just to be relevant for the policy questions at the time. So the question is really about the institutional side of our modeling. What helps to make these efforts stick? What kind of government setups, partnerships, collaborations make modeling part of the country's DNA and not just a once-off project? So basically ensuring that we're doing the right thing at the right time, relevant and over time, so that we really have also the sustainability covered in all of our actions. Okay, so basically how this will unfold is we will have two setting the scene presentations from Maike Groninger, who works with me at Get Transform at the GIZ, and she will share insights of how governments institutionalize their modeling capacity. And then we will hear from Larissa from IRENA, who will give an overview of how IRENA's modeling support can help countries in strengthening energy planning. Afterwards, we will have 2 to 3 country experiences. So basically really from the practitioners on the ground who've been doing this. And there will be some further intervention from other institutions. But in the meantime, I will open it up so we have that lively discussion I was talking about. So without further ado, I would like to invite Maike for her intervention. And yeah, please shoot us off with your input on insights, how governments institutionalize their modeling capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone, for having the opportunity here today to share some of our experiences in institutionalizing modeling tools in governments. First, I would like to present you what Get Transform is about. So Get Transform is a global program implemented by GIZ, and our main objective is to establish policy, regulatory, and technical frameworks for clean energy investment. So how do we do that? We offer technical assistance and capacity buildings to our partners, which are mainly the public sector. Our work is focusing on 4 pillars, which is on the one hand side, long-term energy planning, renewable energy grid integration, on-grid regulation and market development, and also off-grid regulation and market development. The focus areas, or like the focus regions we are working with, are Africa and Latin and Central America. Zooming into our services, which we offer under the long-term energy planning pillar, we do focus mainly on 3 pillars, starting with the first one, which is on the governance and the consultation. And I think actually a lot of these topics we have already noticed today that they are quite important. So for the first pillar, or for the first area, we are supporting our partners, for example, in reviewing their long-term planning processes and checking how this can be optimized. Also, we do offer capacity buildings for the policymakers itself and supporting participatory processes along the way. Secondly, we are also working on the scenarios and the modeling itself. So what we are doing here is, for example, we are setting up plans with countries like an integrated resource plan or an energy master plan. And here we are starting from the discussion on which tool we should use to also then collecting the data, setting up the model, and then also running it. For us, it is important that actually the ownership is in the institution and that we ensure this along the project implementation. The last pillar is actually focusing on what we have discussed in the previous session, so on the adoption and the communication of the results. So we all know that it's quite important to also effectively communicate what the models are about, or what the results are about. So this is also what we are doing here to support our partners in doing so. And then to translate the modeling results into political actions and objectives. Here you can see an overview of the areas or the projects we are active. So in the interest of time, I would just like to highlight two for the moment. So on a regional scale, we have kicked off this year the work with the Southern African Power Pool, where we are doing an update of their generation and transmission master plan. Here we are using the tool of Plexus. Also on a national scale, we are working with Namibia on developing their energy master plan. And here, for example, we are using the tool of Times. So now to share also some lessons from our work. So based on the work with our partners, we have identified some key lessons and on what it really takes to institutionalize the modeling tools and to make them actually a living part of the planning process rather than just a one-off exercise. And if you have a look at them, these lessons go beyond the technical side and also touch on the topics of process, participation, and trust. And all of these topics were actually raised throughout the day. So first of all, we do see that the planning process is as important as the model itself. Also, by using existing capabilities and building up on those, we can ensure that the planning is really sustainable. Thirdly, interinstitutional coordination and alignment is crucial and helps to ensuring the holistic transformation. Also, this is then followed by participatory processes which promote collaboration and help create consensus among the crucial stakeholders. We also do think actually that scenarios are a great way to deal with uncertainty and to explore alternatives. And by building, reviewing, updating, and improving the planning processes transparently, you ensure trust. And this is needed for all the involved parties. By having said that, I will now hand over to Larissa, who will focus on the topic of capacity building to make energy modeling truly work in practice. Thanks.
Hi, thank you, Mike. Should have sat a bit closer, sorry. So good afternoon. My name is Larissa Nogueira. I'm a team lead for energy planning at IRENA. So super happy to say a few words about our work on capacity building here at IRENA. So, okay, yeah. So that's the cover. Yeah, I'll go very quickly through this just to mention our different portfolio of energy planning support. So of course, you know very well the RTS network. IRENA can also prepare our outlooks and applications of model analysis to specific country and regions and publish them in IRENA publications. But as mentioned here, I will be focusing on the institutional capacity building activities to support countries with national master plan development or regional model analysis and planning for regions and energy planning for NDCs. I'd like to start mentioning one of the most successful cases that we have at IRENA, which is the African Continental Power System Master Plan. So IRENA provides capacity building for energy planning at the national and regional levels through a mix of in-depth, hands-on workshops and online training using dedicated open software tools based on robust data, transparent methodology, and ownership of skills and processes. For the CMP, there is, we consider this a groundbreaking collaborative platform for energy planning, also because it emphasizes the full ownership of the planning process in African institutions in compliance with the mandate set forth by African heads of states. The CMP process has been validated through a multi-stakeholder collaborative framework involving extensive stakeholder engagement processes, which brings strong political endorsement and sets this as a strong and sustainable basis to mobilize investments, which is the main objective of its third phase. So going back to what makes CMP and other national regional programs successful, what we consider that makes some lessons learned that consider them sustainable. So besides robust data transfer methodology and ownership of skills and processes, we promote a longer time frame program with on average 4 times 1 week workshops with online support sessions in between to make sure that the working teams have enough time to develop and work on the programs, the progress. We promote also knowledge and data exchange between these working teams, what we call a sort of peer-to-peer learning. We empower the working teams to create their own scenarios based on the narratives that they want to see, aligned with their policies and goals. So we stand on a more technology neutral position on these sort of support programs. And we start a program with a base version of a tool that is ready to use. And then we provide induction for the trainees to start working with it. So the modeling updates are agreed and developed together in accordance with their wishes, as I said, in terms of scenario and narratives, but also keeping consistency across the different teams, which is important, especially on regional programs. Okay, in terms of implementation, and here we set up a basic scheme for some of our national programs, such as we've been doing for Senegal and Rwanda. So we ensure that there is a proper governance structure put in place that is also representative enough of the different institutions in the country. And then it means that usually we have a steering committee that will provide the policy direction and make the work, the final deliverable relevant. Of course, with different participations from different institutions in the country, and we also make sure that they review and endorse the master plan. On the more technical side, reporting to the steering committee, we have the working team, also made of representatives of different institutions, so Ministry of Energy, Environment, Utility, Rural Electrification Agencies, and etc. And as mentioned, they can exchange knowledge during the work, and they can bring the knowledge of the tool and the scenario exercise to their own institutions. And they're also directly responsible for the data updates, execution of the analysis, and the report writing. So with my last slides, just to wrap it up a little bit, with these, we strive to get the full buy-in and commitment of the governments and government institutions, with all stakeholders agreeing to the program scope and objectives. with working teams engaging in the program as part of their official jobs. So they're not perceived that they're using their extra time to take part in this program. It's actually part of their official job mandates. Working teams exchanging data, as mentioned, and experiences, but also coordinating with ongoing policies and targets in the country to make sure that the results, the master plan result, can feed into, for instance, NDCs, LTLS updates, and etc. And to keep these goals sustainable, we strive for the institutionalization of the planning process and updates, ensuring that the process built during the program can be replicated by the institutions. And IRENA usually can provide support at that stage as well. So, for instance, we have provided capacity building for the Central Africa Power Pool a few years ago, and now we are supporting them with the update of their master plan. We support the creation of data repositories that are open and accessible, promoting data transparency. And as an example, there is the Mwanga database from CMP hosted by the African Union. And on a resource perspective, the collaboration with other institutions and other ongoing activities is crucial to ensure the complementarities and synergies between the different programs will make the optimal use of the resources available. So we can definitely build like a stronger and impactful program together than separately. And there I mentioned a few of our partners, but it's IAEA. I had made an update of that slide, but apparently it didn't go through. Yeah, okay, so I will stop here. I hope this gives you enough food for thought, and I'm looking forward to hear from the roundtable members. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Larissa and Maike. And I think what I have noted down here, this is quite an opportunity for engagement with the IRENA or with the GIZ. You mentioned a couple of things that are already important that we can take into the discussion, like institutionalization, open data, and so on and so forth. We will now move into the roundtable discussion, and I think this is sort of hopefully where the magic happens. We will engage with the practitioners who've been doing this for a while on the ground. We're really lucky to have speakers from all over the world, including Pakistan, hopefully online. Maybe you can confirm if that's still the case. Egypt, Costa Rica, Canada, Denmark, and we also have several international partners. So I think quite an elusive group to go through these reflections. Can I just confirm we have the online intervention? Or if we have it or not? No, we don't. Okay, so Pakistan is off the table. So that saves us some time. I would like to start with two country examples here. We have Egypt and Costa Rica to share your knowledge to kick us off. And some of the thoughts that you might want to touch on is how energy planning is organized in your country or institution, what governance or institutional setups you have to really sustain the modeling capacity, or where you also struggle. How do you deal with challenges in your staff turnover, limited budgets, and perhaps also how international partnerships like with the IRENA or others are helpful in doing your job. Yeah, maybe we start off with Costa Rica. Go ahead, I'm done with my questions. You can cover that, please. Like 3 to 5 minutes for your intervention. Thank you.
Sorry. In Costa Rica, the planning is in the ICE. ICE is the National Institute, the government institute. So we are made the described planning. For long term, they use planning to generation and transmission. And the distribution, we have 7 companies, so every company has his planning. So Costa Rica have policies for the government, so every company have to improve the policies. We have the National Energy Plan and the decarbonization plans. So every company has to try to make the goal for that plan. Sometimes don't happen, but we'll try. In Costa Rica, the electricity sector is public. So all the, thank you. Maybe, there are the 2 plans we have. The Costa Rica planning is public, so when it's public, we was a monopoly 10 years before, something like that. So it really is strong to make difference. We are regulated, so all the costs about that is go to the tariff. The problem with that is sometimes is not improve the efficiency. Every company have to spend the money they want to do that. If they don't care, it's the best way to do it. So they send the information to the regulate, and the regulate transfer to the user. That's it. Right now we have some situation we want to improve from the government. We want to improve the planning more indicative. We want to change the energy plans from the years and improve more the carbonization plans. For Costa Rica, it's really important, the carbonization plans. It's more like our name. We want to improve everything green. More than 25% of Costa Rica's forests, so we can use many lands. For hydro, for geothermal, we can not use it right now because it's in that time. The more important for Costa Rica is improve green energy. We are really good in that. We have more, some years we have more 100% of energy from renewable energy. Just a few years, we have some problem. The last year we have some problem about that because we export a lot hydro energy to the MER. MER is the Central American market. We export more than we can. When the droughts come and the Niño come too, we have some problem with the water. So we don't have enough water for satisfy our country. But right now we want to improve the other kind of energy, more solar. We have less than 1% of solar. The geothermal is difficult I told you, for the forest because it's in national parks. We cannot use national parks. Just solar, biomass. We have to improve more that. We want to improve I forgot. H2. Exactly. Thank you. I'm sorry. We are in that way to improve that because we want to more differentiate the matrix. But we are really good in that because we have more than 19% in renewable energy.
Thank you very much. This is really, I think, very interesting, and you came there quite far. And if I understand, Costa Rica is kind of like in the almost second part of the energy transition because your national grid is kind of 100% renewables, and now you are talking about decarbonization of industry and transport and so on. So quite advanced. I forgot to introduce you. So Natalia works with the Ministry of Environment and Energy in Costa Rica. Thank you so much for that intervention. I suggest we take the experience from Egypt before we open up for questions and comments. And I would like to invite Mr. Ali Ahmed Ali, Director of Energy Research and Studies at the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy in Egypt. Thank you so much for your intervention.
Thank you. For Egypt, energy planning is like everywhere, it's a strategic practice. And this inherited from the country's institutional structure. In Egypt, we have a ministry for petroleum and mineral resources, and the other ministry which I belong to is the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy. This kind of different institutions having the same, working on the same level of energy needs this kind of coordination and coherence between both ministries. So the tools we are already working on in Egypt started with the political recognition of this importance and imperative need to have these tools and to be utilized in the country, and also to the technical needs and the availability of resources, because one of our global vision to have to develop our plans in Egypt to diversify our resources. We have the abundance in renewables like wind and solar, and also we have since 1960 hydropower already installed in Egypt. Besides, we started a plan for nuclear beside the gas power stations. So the first start was the political recognition, and then the international cooperation. We already cooperate with different partners in order to develop our planning tools. The first one came with EU. We started with Merkel Times. And that tool developed over 10 years after studying different practices all over the world. After that, we found that not only long-term planning, which the only tool like Merkel Times needed to be utilized within the country, we need medium and short-term tools. And then we started cooperation with Denmark for Balmoral development for like giving this kind of capacity building in Egypt, because we used to depend on the outsourcing consultancies from over the cooperating partners, and then we consider also starting to build the institutional structure that will gather all these entities responsible for energy in Egypt. So we started to have this unified unit under the cabinet of ministers that will be responsible for planning in Egypt, and we will have a sectoral departments in Ministry of Electricity and Ministry of Petroleum in order to support this central department. So we started this kind of governance structuring and institutional structuring for these institutions, and we started this cooperation with GIZ now to start to implement this kind of governing structure and the institutional structure for these sectoral units. Of course, knowledge transfer efforts and partnerships played a very crucial role in Egypt's narrative to start planning and choosing tools, because tools under this kind of a scheme of scattered institutions, which is responsible for energy. Some tools were used under the New and Renewable Energy Authority, which is different for the other tools used under the Egyptian Holding Company, and new tools are being used under the transmission company. So we started to make this kind of integration between all these tools, and now we depend on the Merkel Times tool as the first tool to be adopted in the country to develop the plan, the strategic plan of Egypt, and we, with cooperation with other partners, will develop the short and medium term tools.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much for providing these two examples. What I'm hearing is the coherence between two ministries, the political recognition as a success factor for this work, and also the institutional structures and partnerships. So I think you covered quite some points that we probably want to sort of like establish here. Yeah, I would like to, before going to some of the other colleagues here listed on our agenda, I would like to open up to see if there are some questions to either Costa Rica or Egypt, or also some comments for clarification. Please.
Yeah, Max, the CEO of Open Energy Transition. One question to Costa Rica. You mentioned in the slides that you're embracing open source models and tools. Like just a question, like what was the reasoning here? How did you come to this decision? And like what kind of challenges you have at the moment? Thank you.
I forgot to talk about that. Okay, every company in Costa Rica use different models. For the ISE, they use the PSSE, the Siemens software. They use it for electrical analysis. For optimization and scenario, they use Times CR. Sometimes they use Python scripts. For distribution, they use Siemens, I pronounce it, Siemens this distribution and networking modeling. This company, is no open source. We have to pay the software. The company support every time they improve the model. That kind of improve, they working to Costa Rica. We try, I check everything. We want from the minister to use the open source, but every company use the license source. Just for the minister, it's difficult sometimes to have the money for pay that every year because we depend the central government. But the license software, we don't have problem because they support. And the government, we don't have it yet, but we are going to try to open source. We talk with the other partners around the world they help us to development. I don't.
Does that answer the question? Okay, great. And I think you will follow also with the intervention to go further into this. Yeah, further comments and questions to the colleagues? Yeah, please.
Just a comment. It's very interesting to include open source tools. So we are in the same line. So for that reason, I want to ask you a little bit more for the variables that you include, that you put in your presentation. I don't know if you can expand a little bit more about what is the tool that you are using nowadays or your country and how to involve the variables, for example, the jobs and other variables into the software, or if you can manage the model or how is it?
Yes, really sorry because when I get the presentation, I lost my line. Okay, sometimes, in Costa Rica, the ISE, they have the teams for this, ¿verdad? The professional, we make the capacitation all the time because the people change in the time. So I don't use the software. I know to program in Python, but I don't use this kind of software because this kind of software are specific for the topic they use it. For transmission or generation, they use it for the first cast for that, but that description planning, It's not like the other kind of modeling that indicate planning or something like that. I don't know if for that way you want to know. I got it. Is that way? Okay. The distribution. Okay, we are really small country, like 51 square kilometers, really small. We are almost 5 million people. It's so easy for us. But inside the Costa Rica, we have very different weather geography because it's really small, but the highest point is 3.5 kilometers, something like that, Chiripo. It's like, so sometimes the distribution is so hard for some. For the coast, we have the hurricane every year. We have the rainy season is so hard, really hard. And right now we have many problems in many towns. So we lost infrastructure. So we use this to improve the distribution. Sometimes we have to improve more efficiency for that, because when you design the distribution line, you have to try don't be so long, because you get so many loss. But for the situation we lost a lot of infrastructure, we usually improve more the grid for that situation, because we don't have money for change or improve more every year.
Great. Thank you so much for these clarifications. I would like to maybe pick a bit more on the topic of open source, and maybe actually go to you, Maximilian, for your intervention. Maybe reflect a bit about that, and also in sort of like in terms of sustainability, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here in this session. Sustainability of our energy planning efforts. Very much looking forward, like from your perspective. So Maximilian, CEO of Open Energy Transition. I think you said that, but just formally again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you to be here. Thanks for the nice intro. Maybe just a brief background. What we do, like Open Energy Transition, or OET, is a non-profit with around 50 people within our team. Like we're actually a non-profit tech company. I think that's like different kind of non-profit in a way. Like we work with industry leaders and also philanthropic leaders together to like solve big challenges around energy planning, including from software to the data side. So we're working on all the aspects. And like our vision is really to challenge some of the incumbent tools like Plexus and others. Like we heard that is used in many regions, and like just for context, like the planning, like we're paying a lot of license costs every year. So the whole planning costs, like they're around 2.5 billion every year that we pay for software, which at the end often does our job really well. But like you hit sometimes limits, and like with open source, we really try to push and overcome those limitations. Then maybe on the part of open source is actually software that like you can change as you wish. It's free to use, free to change, free to adapt. You can build your own governance around. And often, like if you use an open source tool, it means you have an internal governance, like your company or your organization, your government needs to figure out how to decide like what changes to add, accept, and so on. Open source, and like that's maybe also quite important. It's not like thing for hackers only anymore. We have now roughly around within the whole ecosystem, osmosis and so on. Like we have around 2.5 million downloads every year, where people like we identified visibly 14,000 different users, like that are using such solutions. So it's I think it's signaling us that like there's some kind of planning revolution happening. And like at OET, we are really at the center of this whole movement, with of course other partners like CCG, Linux Foundation Energy, and Energy Modeling Hub from Canada. So there are many other partners around it, but like what we do in a special way is that we also work with the industry players. Like we're working with NSOE, the European Energy Regulator, ACER, working with a utility very soon in Africa. And we're trying to embed those open source tools within the process. And that's actually like this institutionalization. I think that was wrong pronounced. But like that's often a challenge, how to get those tools in, like it's often a change process. But we are helping that people, and often we recognize, okay, technology, like the technology can do everything, open source. If it's not there, you can quickly close gaps. but often what you need is the ecosystem aspect. And with ecosystem aspects, I mean, okay, you need actually service providers around that. You need consultants, you need researchers around it. Like you need a lot of developers as well as users within the ecosystem. And if this stuff aligns, you actually have often like a sustainable open source ecosystem. Yeah, like at the end, like open source is really about collaboration, innovation, joint innovation, and so on. And like we need at the end like developers which are implementing changes within the software, and those need money. So a sustainable ecosystem needs money, and then money can come from different sides. Like open source doesn't mean you're broke. Like we actually have 50 people and we're growing, and we actually also like earn sufficiently. Yeah, so there's money around if you provide value, and then money comes from, in our case, like 50% from the industry side, 50% from philanthropic earnings, and we see a huge market. Like I spoke about 2.5 billion that people are paying. Like if it's even just a quarter of that, like that's more than enough to create great solutions. So yeah, just stopping here. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Maximilian. I think this is a very nice segue into intervention from Carla Canon from CCG. And I would be interested, I think you are having this CCG ecosystem approach and how this is being put into practice, maybe what you are speaking of, Maximilian. So maybe experiences from your work in institutionalization of tools promoted through CCG. Yeah, maybe you can explain that a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Thanks. It's a pleasure to join this discussion. Thanks, IRENA, for the kind invitation. So for those who might not know, CCG stands for the Climate Compatible Growth Program, and is a UK FCDO-funded research program. So our work focuses on helping government to make energy planning more accessible, usable, and sustainable, in particular in LMIC countries. And building up on what Max just said, we also experienced that the challenge is not only technical, but most of the time institutional. So we see that this government want to use open source, as we are also from Costa Rica, but sometimes they face challenges. What happens after the project ends? Who is going to support us? Who is going to be there when we have some questions, sorry. So the approach we found was useful and successful so far. CCG was made of different elements in working in a holistic manner, complementing each other with open source tools, data, and training. So we make so how do this component build on each other? So these tools that we use are open source, but besides being free and open source, we design them in a way to make them accessible and easy to use for policymakers, not too complex. And this fits in our bigger framework that we adopt at CCG called Data to Deal. That is a framework that connects the vision, the buy-in of the government with the data, with the modeling, and finally linking up to finance mobilization. So these tools that we use are designed in a way that can go all the way through this process and this pipeline. And of course, we cannot do anything with with these tools without proper data. So we have designed and developed world-first starter data kits, which are accessible and starting point data sets for low and middle income countries to get started quickly with the analysis, and then to give them the full flexibility to change the data that are in the data set and refine them based on the local context. And finally, we support all of this with skills. So we have a full collection, a various range of courses online. These courses, we have developed them with the Open University, and they are free, self-paced and certified. So we have seen a lot of people taking those, more than 100,000 downloads and engagement. But those are just introductory courses. So then we complement those with the in-country work, but also with the energy modeling platforms, where we teach and we learn from each other on various tools, from osmosis, onset, and other geospatial, but also finance tools over there. And we have a clear example here. I just was speaking here with Omata from Nigeria, the gentleman from Nigeria, who happened to have taken some of these courses and have applied for these schools. But to make sure that this capacity really lasts and this is institutionalized, we also work a lot with the universities. So we try to, we support many universities in the South to help them embed open source tools in their curricula, in their teaching activities for postgraduate and for masters. And we also try to we will be soon launching awards for academic paper writing and for master scholarships, so that there's always a new pool of young academics and young analysts that can work together with the government and make sure that there's always a locally sustained capacity in the country that can support the government priorities. So all of this to say that we don't only develop and maintain these tools, but we design them and apply them to connect them with the finance mobilization. So to develop multi-billion investment plans, and we will have some of the country we've been working with, also with 2050 Pathways, who is here in the room, present their updated NDC based on the work that we have done together now at COP30. So stay tuned, and lots of pieces moving on, and will be great to work with many of you to make this even more effective. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Carla. We have two more sort of pre-scripted interventions, and one is from Canada, from Edouard Clément, Executive Director at the Energy Modeling Hub. And I think, if I understand it correctly, it would be very interesting to hear from you, because you apply open source tools in Canada, and how to understand how they're integrated with the official planning cycles, regulatory processes, laws, etc. So, Edouard, if you can maybe take us source. We want to hear real application, Canada, open source. Let's go.
Sorry, yeah, I'm very passionate about this. So thank you so much. I wanted to thank Francesca, but she just left, so I'll wait later. But I want to steal her quote, because modeling is a team sport. I think adapt very well to what we're trying to do in Canada. So I'm the executive director of the Energy Modeling Hub. So we are a Canadian-based consortium of universities and other stakeholders from the private sector, utilities, federal agency as well. We are mostly funded by NRCan, Ressources Naturelles Canada, but also by philanthropic foundation as well. And I think this is part of the sustainability model that we're trying to develop. So EMH, the Energy Modeling Hub, so our mission is to connect modelers, policymakers, and experts, and to reinforce evidence-based policy making through collaboration, open data, and transparent modeling practices. So we really adopt the ethos presented also by Max and the open energy transition. Beyond our analytical work, we aim to build what we call institutional memory. I think that's also part of the discussion here. This capacity to sustain a modeling ecosystem that outlives individual experts and projects, and also funding cycle by having open source, transparent methods, data, and tools. We think this is a solution to maintain this memory over time. So for those of you that don't know about this, but Canada energy system is very distinct. We're composed of 10 different provinces. It's highly decentralized. Each province is responsible for their own electricity system and climate planning. So in this environment, collaboration cannot be mandated, it must be cultivated. So you need to find opportunities to make this collaboration works. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere. So EMH, we think we're here to serve as a national reference centers, working to connect this fragmented ecosystem, which spans between government, utilities, consultant, and academia. We're pretty young. We were funded in 2021, so we only have 4 years of experience to share, but we already see some kind of preliminary interesting success and happy with the kind of outcomes we've been able to achieve. And basically, we're trying to, our activities are centered around 3 strategic pillars, right? So convening and collaborative engagement, very important one. Secondly, capacity building and trying to develop some kind of rapid response analysis and services by enabling stakeholders to do their own work with open source tools. And also, thirdly, to make this happen, we need to propose and provide some open source data and models to make this happen. So as an example, we maintain a platform called Coders. It's an open source database of energy data, assumptions, and modeling results that any stakeholders can use. And we even work with private consultants in maintaining this and making sure that we all agree on assumptions and data as well. We also operate what we call the M3 platform. That's an interoperable suite of open source models. So I do believe it was mentioned today, there's no silver bullet in modeling. So we believe that a portfolio of models that you can connect easily together can answer a lot of different policy questions and provide you different perspective as well. So you can compare and share results. We host a national and regional forums, technical advisory committee that are composed of different stakeholders as well, so they can contribute to the discussion. And we have this very interesting event that we call Multimodal Comparison Forum. Some of you might heard about a similar exercise going on in the US. So we are trying to replicate this in Canada. Every year, 30 teams from academics, private sector, utilities, federal agencies meet together. They will do this serious games in trying to compare policy questions with their own models and share results and compares. Very successful, I think, approach. Looking ahead, we are launching a collaborative grid planning initiative to foster interprovincial dialogue. That's a key challenge in Canada, and trying to focus on long-term electricity system planning. So we're also proud to collaborate with IRENA now, and maybe to conclude, three main takeaways from what we've learned in the last years, right? So first of all, we believe that a neutral and permanent structure like EMH is essential to sustain trust and ensure continuity in modeling efforts. So we are agnostic to the model, we are agnostic to the political agenda. So we do provide, I think, this foundational set of tools that can support decision making. Secondly, this matchmaking between policymakers, modelers, researchers, translating results, information, outcomes, way of doing things is essential. You need some translator to make this whole ecosystem works. And I think EMH serves as a good example of that. And thirdly, you need data and assumptions and models to achieve credible policy relevant insight. And we think that open source tools really are the key to achieve just that. So again, thank you for inviting me. Happy to discuss. And we're away, Francisca, but as I told everybody, I'm going to steal your quote, modeling is a team sport, and use it as a tagline for EMH. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We should make this a theme, like, yeah, as an outcome of the workshop, team sport. Yeah, I would like to open up again for spontaneous reactions to Edouard or the other 2 interventions we just had. Some questions before we also go into some of the experience from the Danish Energy Agency. Yeah, please.
I'm Nodil. I'm from E.ON. It's an energy company in Europe here. I have two questions. The first one is on the impulse from Egypt. You mentioned that you have a different models right now being used in terms of energy model, and then now you want to integrate it. I'm very curious, how do you currently in the status quo like use these different models? Like, do you use different models for different decisions, or how do you navigate around these models that you have? And second one is more generals for all the countries or the practitioners. I'm curious about what kind of policy choice that you have made and you have consciously choose after the deliberation from the energy model, because I think we talk a lot about the model, but I'm curious about the real implications of all those data and assumptions, and how is the challenge and the discussion looks like in the policy deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Egypt, when it started cooperating with the EU to develop its first strategic plan using an updated model, we adopted the Merkel Times model for Egypt. And we worked with this model for 10 years. And we developed the first draft of the first edition of our strategy in 2015. And we found that we need to update this strategy using the same model by 2020, and yes, we started to navigate new scenarios using this model. However, when we started to deliver these results coming from the model to our institutions who are working on the operational level, we started to find these kind of gaps between the long-term analysis and planning to the operational level. So we started to navigate other tools that can fill these gaps. One of them was, as I mentioned, was a Balmoral, and the other one was Sisyphus and Splat, because we are working on several on these models on national level and regional level, because Egypt has different interconnection transmission lines with neighboring countries. And we even started 2 weeks ago to update our plans for the regional integration for these interconnections with IRENA using the Splat model. So that's why we need to use different models. And how to integrate them? We try with the Balmoral team who are participating with us in order to find a way to feed the model of Merkel Times with the new information that can make the analysis and the practice easier for our colleagues on operation level, because unit commitments and medium-term analysis coming after adequacy analysis of the long-term plans made some differences between what we expect to come from the model and the real situation on the ground, especially when we are transitioning from a system that depends on a large amount of fossil fuels like gas and oil, and we started to tripling our renewables, which needs this kind of integration between long-term and medium and short-term plans. I wish I answered your question.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure there's also opportunity later to follow up on that. I heard there's some interventions also here in the second room and so on. Before we go there, I would go to, last but not least here from the pre-scripted interventions to Denmark, to Mr. Lars Georg Jensen, Chief Advisor at the Danish Energy Agency. And I think there, what would be interesting to know is, from your perspective, how do we make modeling permanent and less project-based? How do you keep your modeling capacity when the stuff rotates or leave, or also with the models? And I think you can share a bit from Denmark, but also from the work internationally that the Danish Energy Agency is doing. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. After having celebrated the open source models, I'm probably going to say something slightly different. It's a bit difficult, but maybe I will try to explain why it can also work when it's not totally open everything. what I'm trying to address is that the modeling in my country is legally institutionalized. So I mean, how can we move from project to project based to something else? Because it's actually part of our climate governance system. So the Danish Energy Agency carries out both the development and the application of our energy and climate models in-house in the agency. This allows us to maintain a coherent and transparent modeling framework that directly supports government decision-making. Now, I would say that we use a suite of linked models that cover together all energy sectors and respective demands, and some are specific subsectoral modeling is carried out by universities though, but the main work and the analytical capacity remains in government institutions. The data, methodologies and results are, though, largely publicized. And this transparency builds trust in the numbers, obviously, and allows external experts and researchers and the public to scrutinize and understand the basis for our policies. Now, this takes me to the law, which is called an act, which is in 2020, just as the pandemic was really totally crazy, a broad majority of the parliament established a legally binding climate act, which holds the government, or holds any government, I should say, at any point in time accountable for meeting our national climate targets. The act defines an annual policy cycle that connects modeling, political decision-making, and independent review. And I'll try to explain that, because each side begins in April with what we call the frozen policy scenario, which is a climate and status and outlook, as I mentioned earlier as well. It's a report that shows how far do we get with existing policies towards our targets and where the gap remains. And based on this, the climate minister must present a climate program. He usually does so in August, proposing new initiatives to close those gaps. Then the minister makes a formal statement in parliament later in the autumn, most of the times at the same time as the national budget for the next year. And then now we're in February, the Independent Climate Council assesses whether the proposed measures are realistic and sufficient. So that sort of takes us through the year. And those targets are updated every 5 years, always with a 10-year perspective, so thereby ensuring a rolling and forward-looking approach. So in short, the Climate Act combines a strong legal accountability, an in-house modeling expertise, and a transparent annual policy cycle. So it's a system designed to ensure that evidence and data actually drive action, and that government, or any government, remains accountable for results. Let me just finish by addressing some of your questions with how do we keep modeling capacity when staff rotate or leave, because they do. Actually, they do all the time. So what we do is that it's a learning by doing also, because ensuring enough in-house capacity to do most of the analytical work ourselves and to build and develop models and data in-house, all of that for publishing annual reports, having to go through that cycle all the time keeps us warm. Right. So whenever somebody leaves, somebody else comes in, and there's a continuity in that. So it's just not, when it's not something you do every 3 or 4 years, then you have this rolling program. You get new people in. So we've also actually recently tested a graduate program where new employees rotate between the 3 models and can work across teams and all this kind of thing. So we have upskilled the existing employees. We take new employees in to do this all the time. Now, budgets, how do you actually get money to do this? You work hard to try to convince everyone that high quality models require ongoing maintenance and development. But of course, there are always priorities in a political environment with many issues. So we make a lot of effort in trying to convince everyone that our modeling work supports the green transition and informs qualified decisions on green initiatives. And then that's a way of doing it, ensuring is that you cannot take decisions on the green transition without having a solid modeling work behind it. Thank you very much.
What I'm hearing there is also consistency in the approach. No? over the years, and even supported by legally binding obligations. So I think that gives a very good things. And thank you for bringing also a bit of spice into the discussion. So yeah, I think officially we are at the end of the time. I would invite still a bit the debate to go on for like 5-10 minutes, if there is the appetite for it. So yeah, reactions to what we have heard from the colleagues, from Lars or from Eduard. Yeah, I see over there, but I also want to first have a look at the second row. Do we have? Yes, let's go there because I haven't seen you before. There. Yes, go ahead.
Alessandro Chiodi from E4SMA. A consultancy company working on basically on modeling. So we are all modelers, and I'm very fascinated about this discussion because I think it's something we generally discuss every day also in office, and is an important point, and it's nice to see the different views, but many views, and also having this discussion. Overall, I'm very open about this topic about, let's say, open models and this kind of things. I'm not against at all about this idea and concept. I find it very fascinating. What I'm, let's say, as a modeler, as a person that often I'm working with governments that are asking to get basically some scenarios to support their policy making and so on, the current barrier that I see, that probably I see today, is still the fact that basically many open models right now lack in terms of accessibility, in order that often they need some coding skills behind that. There is often not an interface that help maybe a policymaker to use directly the model. And on the other side, also the powerfulness that right now benchmarking with other commercial tools are not yet at the same level. I'm not saying that this will not happen and they will be reaching the same point. I hope this will happen. But right now, of course, to answer to very challenging policy questions and to be efficient in what you are doing, my open question is, okay, which is the strategy? Also because, of course, we have limited time in terms of the energy transition. And of course, getting back maybe to a tool that is less powerful today could be risky in many cases. So this is why I would say in our company, we are trying to check all the both the paths, I would say all the paths, keep an eye open on all the direction, but often, of course, we need also to rely on not open tools because right now are the benchmark in the market. So I would like to see, say, your opinions about that, an open opinion on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we got a lot of hands. I think you were first here. Yeah, you? Yes, please.
Yeah, I think this is a great session. And of course, SE4All really supports the open source and open access framework. We have actually been inspired in doing a lot of our work based on, of course, a lot of work that Mark has already done, and then IRENA's Flex tool, etc. So we are really using those sort of tools. Maybe one question more to maybe Max and the others who are in this ecosystem of developing open source models. How do we ensure that a public good that is created will not be then ultimately commoditized for making profits? That's my maybe. So if you have any thoughts on that, is a key question, because as the UN agency, that's what we are always worried about. And then the second one would be, I think one of the challenges that at the country level is, even let's say if we are able to give them a good model out there, there are other running costs that typically they are not able to cater to, right? Like solvers or servers, etc. Are there any innovative ideas around that? How can we overcome those kind of challenges? Thanks.
Thank you very much. So these were questions directly to Max. Maybe you can briefly comment on them. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so the question on this public good thing and like fearing products or profits being made out of that. I would say actually every healthy open source ecosystem allows to make you profits around it. So like usually we collaborate on the foundation, and like then products and services appear in different directions. And like the Linux operating system that runs your phone, probably your like the whole world really, like it's an open source project, but you have a lot of different vendors around it that make money around it, and that like in change brings you a lot of really well-paid developers to the community, and they collaborate on the foundation. Like more than 50%, 80% of the Linux kernel is like coming from for-profit companies, like those developments coming really from institutions which make money around it. But like a cool thing is, like you still keep your freedom to not subscribe to a certain service. Like you can choose your vendor, and like you have freedom in the open source world, which is really cool. Yeah, that on that question. Then ESMA, yeah, lack of accessibility and lack of powerfulness. Like we having a tracker activity where we track, like for example, some of the incumbent proprietary tools with open source tools. So like we need to see the gap visibly to figure out how to close them. I can just tell from our position is that we are investing like multi-millions within closing the gaps within the next 3 years. So like this will be relatively soon history. Like in general, open source can also provide features that proprietary tools can never provide. For example, of being free, like free to change and so on. Yeah, and accessibility is certainly a point that needs to be addressed. Some tools do that already. Actually, like we work with industry all the time, like grid operators asking to work with us. All of them need some interface for results and so on. Usually at the moment, unfortunately, we don't have a good open source interface yet. So we're building from scratch, like quickly things. Luckily, that's like not too expensive. And but like there are a lot of activities going on to make things like removing barriers. Like this is what we're working on.
Thank you. Gentleman next to Carla, yeah.
Thanks for the very interesting conversation. James Glynn, again from ESMA. There's too many ESMAs in the room. I'm contracting with the Danish Energy Agency to help China build an open source model, which is a really weird and possibly surprising outcome. And it's kind of inverted to the reasons we would do open source, I think, in Europe. China doesn't want any data coming outside the firewall, and there's no way of building a model in China collaborating if it isn't open source. So you can build an open source model externally, bring it with you on a USB stick to China, and then do the capacity training within China that they can use proprietary or government data to rerun a model that's open, built on open source data. It's a really interesting use case, I think, that's worth bringing into this conversation. So it's kind of inverted, and it's around security of data. You can't do it with proprietary models. I just think it's an interesting counter-argument.
Very interesting. Lars, is this something since Danish Energy Agency is involved to comment in from your side?
Well, the only comment I make is that yes, I mean, I'm explaining how it's done in Denmark. Is we have many bilateral corporations, and some of them do include modeling as well. And we just have to respect in any country where we are that there may be other views in terms of how open data should be. I mean, so that's different from country to country, and we try to help wherever we can. We're not trying to say that the way we are doing it is the only way to do it, because we have to respect if this is not possible to do. That there are other views out there in some countries as to whether you should publicize your data or not.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Bassam Bentisha. I'm from the International Atomic Energy Agency. So, and at IEEA, we have been supporting our member states for the last 50 years with in energy planning, both in, and we have been developing tools, our own tools, modeling tools, going from the demand side to supply side to financing options, and providing those tools free of charge to our member states. That does not mean that the tools are for free, but we are bearing the costs of the development of the tools, of maintaining the tools during all this period. And we are doing capacity building to our member states. So what Lars pointed out, I agree on that. So governments, utilities, they want trust to a model. Open sources are really great, but they need, when a government institution, when a utility is using a model, they need to know that this structure, this formulation is certified by some organization they trust. That what is important is that the models are transparent, that they do really what is they are supposed to do in total transparent manner. So that's our experience with member states. And it's also good to have open source models, also because there are, it is important to have this ownership of energy planning within the countries, to have this academia. Academia is really great to have a big pool of energy planners, energy experts that can disseminate all the knowledge, keep it within the country. So that's also really good to have. And we are collaborating with a lot of partners to have those activities. This kind of activity is also really great. Regarding the power of tools provided, either open source, I think now, I mean, they are really close. Most of important issues that can be modeled by commercial tools, they can be modeled by open source models, by tools, I mean, like the ones we are developing and providing free of charge to our member states. So I think what was the gap there is from the solver side, which is a very specific knowledge, and even this part is now, the gap is becoming closer between, I mean, open source models, free of charge tools, and others. But very interesting discussion, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bassem. I think we have to wrap it up here. So we are a bit over time. I think we barely scratched the surface with this discussion, and perhaps there is opportunity to continue over dinner or tomorrow. And thanks again also for bringing in the spice at the end. Yeah, so maybe just a few things that I took away. What I found very interesting from the interventions is the institutional structures for maintaining modeling capacity, even maybe supported by a legal mandate, the interministerial collaboration and committees, long-term partnerships, and then our long discussion sort of like about open source data. I think there was kind of agreement, but maybe on the tools, there is still a discussion. And then lastly, also, yeah, I think the point that kind of in between the lines, the geopolitics and the integrity and trust of models, and what that means for us going forward. So I think quite the insights that help to take the network forward, the LTS network. So thank you so much, and I invite you all to continue the conversations now with these great inputs on the networking side of things. Thank you very much. That's it for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.